In this video, we're going to talk about the Kindle e-reader, all the different models you can choose from, the key differences between them, which one I think is the best value or bang for your buck right now, and how Kindle overall compares to its main competitor in the market, which is Kobo. We'll do some pros and cons, figure out why somebody would choose a Kindle over a Kobo or vice versa, and hopefully help you decide which device best suits your needs. Just a quick caveat to this, I'm not going to go too deep into the specs or the RAM and the processors or the resolution. I'll give you just enough to kind of make an informed decision, but really we're focusing on key features, usability, convenience, differences and similarities between the two, pros and cons, and why you would choose one over the other. So let's go ahead and get right into the models. On the basic entry, bare bones kind of entry point, we have the Kobo Nia and we have the Kindle, just the basic, I think it's called just the Kindle now. They are both kind of the quintessential plastic bare bones e-readers. They're plastic construction, no buttons. They're both 6-inch screens, and one of them has 8 gigabytes of storage on the Kobo and one has 16 gigabytes of storage on the Kindle. The Kindle used to have 8 gigabytes as well, but it recently upgraded, and it also recently upgraded its battery to have an extended or improved battery life. The purpose of those two improvements, the doubled storage and the improved battery life, is because for a long time, people actually preferred the Kobo's battery life. People said that it was better. So I think this is their way of competing with the Kobo. And now we have 16 gigabytes of storage with a better battery life. Now, 8 gigabytes of storage is more than anyone would ever need for a basic e-reader. That's like 6,000 books. 16 gigabytes of storage is like 12,000 books. That's an awful lot of books. So unless you're comparing, higher end models where you can add audiobooks and stuff and take up more storage, that's really when it becomes a consideration. But for all intents and purposes, at the base model entry point, it really doesn't matter. They're kind of the same. But if you would like more storage, go with the Kindle. The Kindle is actually $99 USD. These are all priced kind of on Amazon. And of course, at the time of this video, the Kobo is $109 US, so about $10 more. What you get with the Kobo that you don't get with the Kindle, and it's kind of the only difference other than the storage here, is the Kobo Nia has what's called the Comfort Light screen. What that means is, while on the Kindle, you can only adjust the brightness, the dimness and brightness, on the Kobo, you can actually adjust the temperature of the light. So you can actually adjust from warm to blue. If it gets darker outside, you can change the color temperature to a more yellow hue, like a warm light, and save your eyes from that blue light that we all try and avoid from our phones and computers and all that stuff. So some people like that option. Some people don't care. They just want that normal white, blue, whatever light, and adjusting the dimness is just fine. So it really depends here what preference you have. What's more important? Is the storage more important, or is having that warm light adjustability an option? The Comfort Light screen on the Kobo, I believe you can also, even at the base model, adjust it so it automatically changes throughout the time of day. So as it gets more towards your bedtime, it'll gradually become more warm, more yellow, and some people prefer that look, and it does save your eyes a little bit of strain. So those two are basically the bare bones, entry level points. And again, it really depends. In my case, I would probably gravitate towards the Kindle. A little bit of storage for cheaper is always a good thing. And that warm light, while it's a nice feature, I don't think I would care that much at the base model. The next model up on the Kindle is actually where I think Kindle has its best value, best bang for the buck. I think it's the sweet spot for Kindle, and that's the Paperwhite. The Paperwhite is highly reviewed, highly rated. I would think if you polled like 10 Kindle users, I would think the majority of them probably use the Paperwhite or have used the Paperwhite and maybe upgraded from it. So I would recommend starting at the Paperwhite. What you get with the Paperwhite is a 6.8-inch screen. And if you ask me if 0.8 inches is a big difference, I would think on a book, almost another inch of screen space actually does make a difference. So a nice upgrade here on the screen with 6.8 inches. It's fully waterproof now. It now comes with the warm light ambient sensor, so you can change from warm to blue light, like I mentioned, and the ambient sensor automatically compensates for the amount of light in your environment. So if you're outside and the sun is very bright, the brightness on your e-reader will automatically adjust and crank up so that you can see it better. Similarly, if you're in a dark, dim room or you're reading at night, it's going to adjust the brightness automatically. And apparently it does a pretty good job of that. You also get with the Paperwhite Bluetooth capability. So you can also have audiobooks. You can listen to audiobooks. And this one with 16 gigabytes of storage starts at it is $149 USD. Again, that's Amazon for the most part. And that's at the time of recording. There is a signature edition of the Paperwhite that has 32 gigabytes of storage, and it also has wireless charging. Now, 32 gigs of storage, unless you're storing a ton of audiobooks, is way more than the average person would need. So again, it's easy for a company to add more storage for pretty cheap and charge you a bunch more for it. So if you don't need more than 6,000, 12,000, 15,000 ebooks, 32 gigs of storage is a ton, probably more than you need. Unless you're having audiobooks. The wireless charging is a little bit of a gimmick. You need to buy it, separate Amazon dock. It takes up a lot of space and it's another expense. So unless you have the money to splurge on this, or the wireless charging is particularly important to you, or you find a lot of convenience with that, by all means, the signature edition might be the one to go with. For our comparison, so that I can compare with the regular Kobos that have about 16 gigs of storage, I'm going to look at the 16 gig storage version of the Kindle Paperwhite for this video. So $149 US. We have on the Kobo side a Kobo model called the Clara 2E, and it's basically the same as the Paperwhite, except it has a smaller screen and you save about $10 for that. So it's $139 US, but it has a smaller screen. It is also waterproof. We're looking at the 16 gigabyte storage version here. It also has Bluetooth. You can listen to audiobooks. They're pretty much the same. Again, smaller screen, cheaper. The thing with the Clara to note is you can also get an 8 gigabyte version for $114 US, which is cheaper. Everything else is the same. It also has the Comfort Light Pro. So, you can change the warm to blue light, like I said, but again, the Paperwhite has that. And for $149, if you're already in the $115, $120, $25 kind of range, the Paperwhite, I think, is the absolute best value, best bang for your buck. And, it's the one that a lot of people have. It's tried and tested and, a lot of people love it. So that's probably the sweet spot for the Kindle. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So on the next level up, when you want to upgrade, on the Kindle side, you have the Oasis, and on the Kobo, you have the Libra. Right now it's the Libra 2. The model before that was called the Libra H2O. That's the one that I have, but we're going to compare the new Libra 2 with the new Oasis, and both are, I think, incredible devices. The Libra 2 on the Kobo is actually the Kobo sweet spot. This is where I think the best value is to be had. Best bang for your buck on the Kobo side. You can notice they both look pretty much the same. They both have buttons now. You can flick between the pages. You can still swipe and stuff. Ergonomic design. They both have this nice little ridge where it kind of looks funny, but it actually works to be held in a more, in just a nicer way. You get less fatigue in your hands and stuff. Design is quite beautiful and works really well. They both have the exact same resolution, 1680 by 1264. And they both usually have 32 gigs of storage, which is plenty. They both have 7-inch screens, which is their larger screen of all their devices. And they have the best screens that each device kind of has, right? So they're going to have the good contrast, good everything. Everything's going to be sharp. Everything's going to be bright. Everything's going to just look really good. They both have Bluetooth. They both can do audio. And the Kindle Oasis, the thing to note here is the Kindle Oasis has the better build quality. It is metal construction, has some plastic and stuff, but the back is sort of metally. So think about what it might feel like to hold a metal cased iPhone versus a more plastic feeling Android phone. That's kind of the difference here. Okay. So you're going to get much more kind of a nicer design. I think the design can be the same, but it's really a nicer build quality on the Oasis. It is the most premium e-reader right now that you can get. So if that matters to you, if you want metal, if you want something heavy and robust and you want to feel like it's, good quality, then it's the Oasis. But if you want something that's comparable, with all the features of the Oasis that is significantly cheaper. I'm talking almost $100 cheaper, and you don't mind the plastic with like a rubber back. The Libra 2 has a really nice rubber back. Some people prefer that because the Oasis can be a little slippery, but the Libra, it has a lot more grip and it's more like comfortable in the hand. Some people say it's complete preference. But if it comes back to price, we have the Kobo Libra 2 coming in at $189 US, way cheaper than the Oasis, which is at $279 US. Again, these were found on Amazon. I'm sure there are different sales going on sometimes. For the most recent prices, maybe go ahead and give Google a shot. But I can guarantee for pretty much the same features and the same look, the Kobo Libra is way cheaper, almost $100 cheaper, and you're getting pretty much the same device. We'll get into later in the video why someone would prefer a Kindle versus a Kobo, but in terms of specs and devices and looks and usability and features, they're almost the same. Now, one thing that the Kobo Libra 2 doesn't have or isn't able to do is it doesn't have the Kindle ambient light sensor. What that means is it's not going to be able to automatically adjust the brightness of the device according to your environment. So it's not going to adjust the brightness up and down. However, what you're able to do with the Kobo Libra that you can't do on the Kindle Oasis is actually change the brightness by just swiping. So I'm going to just kind of try and show you right now. This is my Kobo, and I can just kind of go up and down on the left here, and I can adjust the brightness up and down, and it's beautiful. And I don't think on the Kindle Oasis you can do that. You have to click the arrow that comes down, and then you can slide left and right. It's still very easy, but if we're talking about automatically adjusting brightness, to me, that doesn't really matter. I can just go to my device and shoot up and down and change the brightness, and it all works. So, here we have two models that are pretty much comparable in terms of the actual device themselves. It's all preference, but if you're talking to me and you're asking me what the best value is, I think it's hard to compete with the Libra 2. Now, Kobo has another model that Kindle doesn't have. For the basic e-readers, Kindle tops out at the Oasis. Kobo has another model called the Sage. It looks pretty much the same. Ergonomic design, 32 gigs of storage. You get all the stuff you got in the Libra 2 and the Paperwhite. It's, waterproof, audiobooks, Bluetooth, all that stuff, except this one has stylus compatibility as well, for if that matters to you. But what you get here is an 8-inch screen. So this is the largest screen of the e-readers that I've found, which is great. 8 inches is quite a good screen. When you're talking about a book, it's more the size of like a nice big paperback. And for some people, that screen size, the ability to zoom in on the font even more, if you're an older person or you have bad eyes, maybe the size makes a big difference for you. So Kobo has the Sage, and this one, if you want to splurge, for $269, again, still $10 cheaper from what I found versus the Kindle Oasis, you get an 8-inch screen device with 32 gigs of storage and a stylus and all. Like that stuff doesn't really matter, but this is probably the best model that Kobo is producing right now, and it's called the Sage. Then after that, we get into the two models where you can take notes and you can scribble stuff and you can write stuff on it and all that stuff. And on the Kobo side, we have the Elipsa, and on the Kindle, you've probably heard a ton about it. It's called the Scribe. They're basically the same. They're like 10.2, 10.3 inches, 32 gigs of storage. I think the Scribe, you can get up to 64. You can create notes, and they have different templates and stuff, and you can write stuff, you can highlight stuff, you can store PDFs and textbooks and stuff in there. It's basically like a Remarkable. My wife has a Remarkable. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but very similar. It's basically a note-taking ebook kind of combo. You can also listen to audiobooks. It has Bluetooth. You can do all the stuff that you could do with the e-readers, but it also has that writing and note-taking capability. So if that's important to you, you can check these out. The big difference here, again, surprise, surprise, is the Kobo is $349 US. And the Scribe, I do think you get more storage with the Scribe, which matters in this category. It's $419 by itself. So it depends which one's more important for you. I would say in this category, the Kindle Scribe does probably have access to more templates and more, like calendar templates and note-taking templates and like planners. I think Kindle would probably have the wider variety selection of that kind of stuff. So if you're in that category of needing something beyond just a regular e-reader, you need something to annotate with, highlight, scribble, draw, plan, have calendars and stuff, different templates, anything with note taking and scribbling. That's going to be kind of its own category at this point. And I would suggest you look at the market and see what other products are available other than Kobo, other than Kindle. There's going to be a couple to choose from, though they're all going to be pretty expensive. So I've summarized kind of all the e-readers. I've given you those two options for the note-taking devices. Let's go ahead and summarize why someone would choose the Kobo versus the Kindle. A pro for the Kobo is, since day one, it's always been open source. If you're not aware, an ebook can be read in different, can come in different file types and be read as such. So there's EPUBs, there's .mobis, there's .azws, which is the Amazon Kindle file type. There's a bunch of different file types. If you think of like Microsoft Word is a Word document, and there's like a .doc, and then, you know, programs are .exe. So they're different file types and they're read in different ways by different programs. Kobo has always been open source, and it can read all those different file types. Amazon has always been locked to the Kindle ecosystem. It can only read Amazon Kindle, which are .azw file types. Recently, they have introduced that they are now able to read the normal and most universally kind of accepted ebook format, which is the EPUB format. So it's less of an advantage for Kobo these days. It has been an advantage for like decades, or like since Kobo was a thing and e-readers were popular, probably 12, 15, 20 years. I don't even know. But forever, Kobo had that advantage, and now Kindle has caught up with the fact that it can't just lock everyone to the Amazon file type. One thing to note on the Kindle side is a lot of the Kindles come with advertisements built in. You buy a Kindle, you open it up, you'll be getting homepage ads for different stuff, for products, for Amazon, for whatever. Kobo doesn't have that. It doesn't bombard you with this like spam advertisement stuff. You can go ahead and pay to have the Kindle advertisements removed, but I think it's 20 or 30 bucks. I think it's closer to 20 bucks. And sometimes if you call them, they can be really nice to you. It might depend on who you have or your relationship with Amazon, whether or not you're a Prime member or whatever, but they sometimes just remove the ads out of courtesy for you. But it's something to be aware that Kindle does usually come with, even at the base model, comes with these, you know, advertisements built right into the device that you have to somehow remove. Going back to the open format reader, where you can read all the different formats, this is particularly helpful when you want to share books, or if you have downloaded books. Now, I'm not condoning, sharing or pirating books or sharing them everywhere so that, you know, the author benefits less from those sales, but I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't easy or easier on the Kobo to go ahead and download books right to the device. It acts exactly like an external hard drive. You can just drag and drop into the Kobo, whereas the Kindle is much more finicky. You have to really drill down into the folders, and it's very difficult. And if you want to send someone a book to their Kindle, you have to send it to their like Kindle email. Using a Kobo is way easier. I can literally just highlight, just like I would an external hard drive device. I can copy paste all the books that are on my Kobo and paste them onto my wife's Kobo. And we've done that because we both share the same books. It just is what it is. If I have a paperback, I'm going to let my wife read it. If I have an ebook, I'm going to let my wife read it. We don't have to share the device. I can quickly copy paste it to hers and vice versa. So again, I'm not condoning the downloading and pirating of ebooks, but if you are looking to share them, if you are looking to send someone a book or whatever, it's much easier on the Kobo. When it comes down to borrowing books from the library, originally the Kobo was working with Overdrive and Libby for audiobooks and all that stuff. And Kindle, I think, is fairly new to Overdrive. If it's not new, I apologize. But basically now Kindle is also using Overdrive and probably Libby as well. But the important thing to note here is Kindle, you can only access library books, as far as I can tell from my research, in the US. So you can only borrow from US libraries in the US. On the Kobo side, you can actually borrow books from both the US and Canadian libraries. So if you're Canadian and if you have a Canadian library card and you're trying to borrow from Canadian libraries, you can really only do that, as far as I can tell, with the Kobo. It's important to know that none of them come with expandable SD card memory. So the storage that you get is kind of the storage that you get. I just thought I'd throw that in there because back in the day, I believe one of the Kobos used to have an expandable memory card slot for an SD card back in the day. They no longer do anymore. It's built right into the motherboard. So they basically don't have expandable memory. So who would prefer like the Kindle over the Kobo? So I mentioned a couple benefits that the Kobo has, but why would somebody want or need to read from a Kindle? That really comes down to the Amazon ecosystem and the market share and the backing that they have. Amazon and Kindle, they have the bigger market share. You can basically find any book you want through your Kindle e-reader or Amazon. Whereas if you go to your Kobo, store on your e-reader, you might not be able to find every book or some, obscure books or self-published books or things like that. Whereas on the Kindle, you'd be able to find that more easily. So if selection is important for you, then, that's a consideration. Most of the time on the Kobo, I find that if it's not available to purchase through Kobo, you still can kind of find it through the library. So there's that as well. But if you're downloading books or if you're sharing a book between you and a friend or a wife or whatever, the Kobo is the easier way to do that. But if you're looking for more of a selection to purchase straight from the sites, you might find better selection through Kindle. One of the biggest benefits to having a Kindle is the ability to have whisper sync and the ability to immersion read. So whisper sync is basically when you have, or when you own or have borrowed both the ebook and the Audible audiobook of a certain book, and it has to be the exact same version of the exact same book. Usually, not always, but usually you have the ability to whisper sync between them. It'll track your progress. You can basically listen to the Audible audiobook and then go and pick up your ebook and it'll continue where you left off. I honestly don't find this to be a huge drag on the Kobo side. I just kind of know where I am. And if, you can search a word in the last sentence that you heard and boom, it'll pull you up if you've read like 300 pages since then. It's really not that big of a deal, but having the whisper sync must be a really nice thing. The ability to immersion read is also pretty sweet. That again is when you have both the Audible and the ebook, you listen to it while you read and it highlights and bounces along. Think of like karaoke. It just kind of syncs with the cadence or the speed of your audio and you can just easily follow along. It really is quite immersive that way. You end up reading, I think, more quickly and you retain more. In my experience, I'm getting more used to immersion reading and I'm doing it a lot myself, just with a paperback and an audiobook. I just sync them myself, or an ebook and an audiobook. I do that as well. And a lot of other people do too, but to have the feature built into your Kindle must be really, really convenient so that they're always whisper synced. You kind of pick up exactly where you left off on both copies and you can just follow along and it actually bounces through the words. Whereas if you're doing it on a different kind of device that doesn't support this Kindle immersion reading feature, you're going to just have to skip pages and follow along with your eyes. You won't have anything guiding you like you would on the Kindles. Another thing with Kindle is it can automatically save your highlighted passages and stuff and sync that to Goodreads. Goodreads is owned by Amazon. So if you want to be able to publish or post, highlighted passages or favorite quotes from your books as you're reading them, Kindle is the way to go for the Goodreads compatibility there. So I've rambled a bit too much. I think I'll just summarize who I think should be looking at Kobo devices versus Kindle. On the Kobo side, people that are bothered by blue light or they want the most efficient, adjustability of blue and warm light, Kobo does that a little bit better. I talked about Kindle's ambient light sensor that automatically detects the amount of light and adjusts the brightness accordingly. With Kindle, you can only adjust the color temperature, I believe, manually. On Kobo, you do have an automatic option where you can set your bedtime, and as it approaches your bedtime, it slowly gets more and more warm, or if it's the morning, it'll be more blue. Honestly, if you just want the ability to change that in the most efficient way possible, Kobo is probably the better bet. If you want all the features you can possibly cram into an e-reading device without paying a huge amount of money, Kobo is definitely the way to go. As I've shown, there are huge savings to be had for Kobo for a very similar model versus the Kindle. If you want access to Canadian libraries, if you don't want to support Amazon for whatever reasons you might have, if you want just the best value, and if you want the ease of moving, sharing, dragging, dropping, downloading books, Kobo is the way to go. As for the Kindle, if it's important to you to be able to sync your Audible, your ebook, your Goodreads account, all that stuff very efficiently, Kindle is the way to do that. If you want to do that immersion reading and that whisper sync and have everything linked together, Kindle is the only way to deal with that. If you want Amazon Prime reading, Kindle Unlimited, you're going to have to choose the Kindle. And if you're okay with paying a bit of a premium for the same features, but possibly getting slightly better build quality in the case of like the Oasis model, then Kindle would be the one to choose. If book selection is a top priority and you're not going to download or share between devices as much with a spouse or whatever, or you're not going to borrow as many books from the library and you want access to the store to find as many books and have as many options to purchase books as possible, then the selection of the Kindle might be the best bet. Ultimately, this comes down to personal preference, usage, where in the world you live, brand loyalty, how entrenched you're comfortable with being with Amazon. It's all personal. I hope I gave you a bit of a starting point from which to compare some alternatives. I think Kobo is a wonderful alternative and I own a Kobo. I love it. My wife has one, but I'm also looking at the Kindle for some of the features that they have. And so, you know, it's all personal preference. Hopefully I gave you some info and I helped you decide whether, you know, it's your first e-reader or you're looking to upgrade or you're buying somebody a gift. Hopefully this helped. If you have any comments or corrections, you can find me in the comments. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll catch you guys soon on the next video.